Hi, this is Michael Buffer, and welcome to the BoxHard Podcast.
Hello, everyone. This is Mikey Garcia.
Yo, it's your boy, the odd guy himself, Malik King Scott.
Hi, I'm Charlie Edwards.
This is Fast Eddie Chambers, and you're listening to the BoxHard Podcast with my main man, Joey Coastman.
Hello everybody and welcome to episode 118 of the BoxHard Podcast, 118. I'm your host Joey Coastman. I'm joined as ever by Mr. Ayaz Sumra. Ayaz, how you doing?
I'm good, Joe. Yourself?
Very good, my friend, very good. Right, let's jump straight into it. Again, it's not going to be such a long show today. It's going to be, or this week I should say, it's going to be a pretty quick show. We've got Joseph Parker coming up in the first interview. It's just a really quick interview with him, just checking in with him right after his press conference with Anthony Joshua. So that was quite good to speak to him there. I just literally caught him as he was leaving. He was in the car on the way to the Sky Sports studios, and we did a quick interview in the car. Hopefully we have something a little bit longer with him, maybe a little bit closer to the fight. But yeah, let's jump straight into the reviewing. As always, there's not too much to go over. Once again, there was one bill really to mention in total. It happened at the Turning Stone Resort and Casino in Verona, New York. Well, just one fight to mention on this bill. Claressa Shields, she defended successfully her IBF and WBC World Female Super Middleweight titles against the previously undefeated Tori Nelson. Tori Nelson was 17-0 with 3 draws. She's now 17-1 with 3 draws. Claressa Shields now 5-0, perfect record, still has 2 of the belts at super middleweight. Obviously, you know, the main kind of big fights for her down the line, I suppose, are going to have to happen maybe in different weight classes. She's a real big name in boxing, but there isn't too much going on at super middleweight right now, so something's going to have to happen with her. But all in all, the performance, from what I've heard, I haven't watched it, but I've heard that it wasn't really, a breathtaking performance. It wasn't a great performance. However, she did completely win the fight by a shutout, all 3 judges giving her all 10 rounds. So you can't really moan too much about that. That really is it for the reviewing. Like I say, we've really whizzed through that. Like I say, it's going to be a really short show this week, just a little bite-sized little piece. So it's now time, just before we wrap up part 1, to welcome guest number 1, which of course will be Joseph Parker. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome the undefeated WBO heavyweight champion of the world, Mr. Joseph Parker. Joseph, welcome to the show.
Thank you for having me.
Hey, it's always a pleasure, my friend. So obviously I know that you've just left the press conference, Joseph. I know that you're if I'm not mistaken, you're now in a car on the way to Sky Sports. Are you that far advanced at the moment?
Yeah, I mean, we just left the press conference, so it's this will keep you pretty busy, while we're here, and it's just heading to Sky Sports. And I've got just a few commitments there.
Okay, cool. Is that to film the that program, The Gloves Are Off?
Yeah, I think that's what we're doing there, and also we're going to do sort of some promo for the fight. So that's we're just sort of getting things ticked off and done.
Okay. And obviously you met Joshua today in the flesh. I don't believe that's the first time you've met him. You've met him at one of Vladimir's camps before, I'm sure. What did you make of him? Did you get to size him up? What did you make of the whole thing?
This was I met him back in Azerbaijan when we were both amateurs, but this is a different Anthony Joshua, and so I see myself as a different fighter as well from those days, and it was good to see him. It was good to see him in the flesh, and he's a big boy, but I'm ready for whatever you're going to bring. Much ready on.
And Joseph, I've asked you your opinion on Joshua before. You've always been very respectful of him. You've always said he's a good fighter. However, for you to take this fight, you must believe that you can beat him. What can you do to beat him, Joseph? I've heard that your trainer, I think I read something online that your trainer, Kevin Barry, said that you need to be a lot lighter in this fight than your previous couple of fights. Is that the case?
Our goal is to be a lot lighter for this fight, and going to be heaps of speed, heaps of movement, and it's going to be... I'm going to make it hard for him to catch me.
And another thing that obviously we all knew about, we knew that there was, lots of bickering in terms of getting the fight done. There were percentage split arguments and stuff like that. And, Eddie Hearn made it quite public. So did your promoter or your promoting team, Duco. There was arguments on the splits. In the end, if you can say this, did Joshua's team kind of just accept your proposed offer, or did you have to budge even further their way?
We had to, both teams gave a concession, and I think right now both teams are happy with the deal, and now that that's done, we're looking at leaving it to the side now and getting the work done. So I think, both teams are happy, and now it's time to look forward to the fight.
And also, a lot of the UK fans that are overlooking you are saying, they want to see Joshua fight you simply so he can have another belt for when he fights Deontay Wilder. So it's for all the belts. Obviously, you're looking to derail those plans. Should you beat Anthony Joshua, is Deontay Wilder the next man on your hit list?
Hopefully everything goes well and we beat him and we are victorious after March 31. There's a clause in the contract where he wanted a rematch, so I think that'll be, if everything goes well, that'll be his second fight of the year.
Ah, right, okay, I see. Okay, cool. Also, coming down to the last couple of questions, I know time's quite a factor here. Obviously, we all know that Tyson Fury tweeted a few weeks back that that if anybody wants to bet him £5,000, he wants to bet anybody who fancies the bet that you will beat Anthony Joshua. When you see, a man like Tyson Fury tweet something like that, obviously he's got a lot of confidence that you can do the job. What does that say to you? How does that make you feel?
It's great to have the support from him. He's a great guy, and he was a champion, and still a lot of people consider him the champion. And it's good to get the support.
And finally, Joe, I've checked out the odds over here, and obviously you've never been knocked out, you've never been knocked down either. For you to win on points, which I actually think is very plausible, is 33-1. And I actually had to stick £1 on that because the odds are crazy in my opinion. The betting shops believe the most likely thing to happen is for Joshua to win by knockout. After that, they believe Joshua will win by decision. After that, they believe that you'd knock Joshua out. And finally, like I say, the most unlikely scenario is for you to beat Joshua on points. Despite you winning your last 3 fights on points, what is your prediction, Joseph? Do you reckon you can win this on points, or is it simply a knockout?
Yeah. I'm going to come out with my game plan and I'm going to perform the best I can, and knockout comes it comes. But I think it's going to be a great fight. I don't really pay that much interest in the odds. If people want to make money, they start betting on me.
Okay, well listen, Joseph, I always speak to you before your fights. I always wish you well, and every single time I've done that, you've gone on to win. Not that I think it's all my fault, by the way. But once again, I wish you all the very best for March the 31st. Thank you for your time, and I'm sure we'll catch up sometime afterwards.
Thanks, brother. Speak soon. Take care.
Okay, now it's time for part 2 on this week's show. This part, of course, the preview part, but as always, we go to Ayaz with the latest news. There's a lot of things to talk about. Ayaz, take it away. What you got for us?
This Saturday, Box Nation will be showing the Errol Spence versus Lamont Peterson fight.
Yeah, that's a great fight, obviously. It's really the biggest fight of the year so far. What I mean by that, obviously, is we're a few weeks into January now. There's a few big fights coming up, but this really is the first kind of boxing card that I'm really looking forward to. So, yeah, I can't wait for it. I'm happy that Box Nation have picked it up. It was a bit of a last-minute kind of thing, but I'm happy that it's been done, and I'm really looking forward to it. I definitely know where I'll be on Saturday night.
Oscar Valdez will face Scott Quigg on March the 10th at StubHub Centre.
Yeah, great fight, actually. I remember speaking to Oscar Valdez on this show. It was a few weeks back now, and, he was in between fights. He didn't really know what was happening, and I'm sure he said that I'm pretty sure he said that he thought he'd probably be fighting Frampton if he was going to be fighting one of the guys in the UK. I don't really even think we mentioned Quigg. I might have to go and listen back to that. But anyway, yeah, he's fighting Scott Quigg. It's a great fight. It's one I'm really looking forward to. For me, though, I'd probably have to say I probably at this stage side with Oscar Valdez, but we definitely have to get him on the show again, obviously just before the fight. He's a good guy, but I wish both men all the best in that one for sure.
Lenroy Thomas will face Dave Allen in a rematch.
Yeah, that one's going to be happening on Kell Brook's undercard, which was the same place where the first fight happened, obviously on Kell Brook's undercard. So yeah, I mean, he gets the rematch, Dave Allen. The first time I actually thought he won that fight, despite I think having a little bit of money on Lenroy Thomas, if I'm not mistaken. I'm a big fan of Dave, so it wasn't nothing malicious or anything. I really hope he can do it and certainly achieve that goal and become the Commonwealth champion. He really does deserve it. But no, it's a tough ask. I give him a lot of credit, but really and truly, where else would he go? I mean, losing to a guy like Lemroy Thomas, unfortunately, he's a good fighter, Lemroy Thomas, but unfortunately, there isn't too many kind of sides to turn to really when you lose to Lemroy Thomas, and that's really the position that Dave Allen ended up in, unfortunately for him. And I'm really hoping he can right the wrong here, but to be honest, you'd probably have to make Lemroy the favourite maybe going into this second fight. But certainly what does need to happen is all three judges need to be different judges, I think, because I think the judges somewhat were a little bit harsh on Dave Allen. That was just my view. Maybe I was being a little bit biased, I don't know. But all the very best to the big man. We've got a lot of love for him on this show for sure.
Yep. Sean Master-Dodd will face Tommy Coyle on the Amir Khan undercard.
Yeah, that one. What's the date again for Amir Khan's?
21st
of April, yeah, obviously in Liverpool. It's a shame because it clashes with Carl Frampton and Nonito Donaire, so you've really got to pick which one you're going to be watching live and which one you're going to be watching back. It's going to be a hard night for us on that night, Ayaz. It's also the closest weekend to my birthday as well, so it doesn't really help me out. Yeah, but about that fight there, I'm happy that it's been made. It's a good fight. I think that Sean Master-Dodd has been overlooked many times, always turns up and always comes to fight, always puts in a good performance. And I mean, at one point I suppose he's gonna sort of run out of steam a little bit and maybe get beaten up. But then again, Tommy Coyle, you definitely have to say, he's probably seen better days as well. I actually really like this fight, though. It's a bit of a trade fight, and I don't mean that disrespectfully. I think it could be a real all-action fight, and I think I'd probably edge Tommy Coyle. I really like Tommy Coyle. I do. I really do like Tommy Coyle. One thing for me, I think he can certainly punch. I remember when he was putting away quite a few guys in a row. I think he fought quite a few guys in a row, knocked them all out, and for me, it was quite exciting to watch. No world beater, but seems like a good guy, and I wish him all the best in this one. But once again, Sean Master-Dodd, I mean, I think it was last time out when he beat Tom Stalker the way he did. He just keeps getting overlooked, keeps getting unappreciated, I suppose, fight by fight, but still turns up and gets the W. So credit to Sean Master-Dodd. I like both guys, but may the best man win once again. But I think I'd probably edge to Coyle. I think Coyle's got the hunger a little bit once again. He's been chasing big fights for quite a while, and this one is a really good fight, and obviously on a really good undercard too.
Callum Smith will face Jürgen Bremer on February the 24th.
Yes, it was funny because this took quite a while to be announced. A lot of people were, rumbling up all these rumours on social media, stuff like that, saying that Callum Smith isn't even going to be fighting in this World Boxing Super Series tournament. He's going to be pulling out. Joe Gallagher made the decision. All this rubbish, complete nonsense. I just don't get it. That's the one thing that we don't do, Ayaz. It's funny because we really don't spread stuff or don't, say things on the show that we're not 100% sure of. A lot of these other people, these sort of like, I don't know, like these people that are desperate to break this shocking story, and most of the time the shocking story's got completely no substance to it. It's just a load of BS, really, a load of rumours. But there's so many people that like to spread all this crap, and it's laughable, really. I mean, I never believe any of this stuff. I've been around the game for a while. I know to take everything that you see, unless it's from the horse's mouth. Just take everything with a pinch of salt, and that is what I did when I saw that. I didn't think he'd try and run away from Jürgen Bremer. No way. And I'm happy that the fight's been made. I do have to admit, for whatever reason, it did take quite a while to get made, but I don't think there was at any point, a time where Callum Smith was seriously considering pulling out of the tournament and pulling out of this fight here. But yeah, I'm happy it's made. I really am. I think Callum Smith beats him, but I think he gives Callum Smith a good fight, and a lot of people think that I'm crazy for thinking that. I'm pretty sure Spencer Fearon was quite surprised when I said I think it was going to be a good fight, as if it was going to be some kind of easy win for Callum Smith. Don't get me wrong, I hope it is an easy win for him. He's a good guy, and we'll probably look to get him on the show once again. He's been on a couple times, Callum Smith. So all the best to him in that one for sure. Him and Joe Gallagher and the rest of the team. But yeah, it's a cracking fight, and I'm happy that it's been made.
And finally, Luis Ortiz will face Deontay Wilder for the WBC heavyweight title on March the 3rd.
Yes, another big fight that's been made. Obviously, this could have happened a few months back, but Luis Ortiz failed the drugs test. It seems this time round, the fight's been signed again. Hopefully, he doesn't fail any drugs tests here. I don't really know how to feel about this. If Luis Ortiz truly did something wrong intentionally, that's the only thing. It's very hard to prove whether anything's intentional, really. If he did something intentionally, then obviously he shouldn't even be boxing. However, all that aside, he's been declared, I suppose, okay to fight, or whatever you want to call it. He's been accepted by the WBC. They haven't chucked him out of their rankings. And here we go. The fight's back on. Deontay Wilder's a guy for me, Ayaz, and I've said it many times, and I know that you agree. He seems to, be quite easily outboxed for the first few rounds in his fights. I'm not quite sure why. He seems to be a bit of a slow starter, but always 100 out of 100 times does he catch up with you in the end, and most of the time he knocks you out. So for me, it's a good fight, but I think if he gives up some of those early rounds to Luis Ortiz, and I think he will, I think Luis Ortiz is definitely gonna provide many problems on the night, especially being a southpaw that can punch with both hands and is quite clever. I don't know, it's really I don't know, the length of Wilder, I suppose, is a massive plus. But I think, I don't know, I mean, we just don't know how old Ortiz is, but for me, I'd probably favour Ortiz, and that might be quite controversial. But I think he's a nightmare for Deontay Wilder. I think the first few rounds, Wilder could be down and then could get a little bit desperate. And again, Luis Ortiz can knock you out with one punch as well. So I really am looking forward to that fight. That's going to be that fight, really, that you watch it and kind of think to yourself, right, there's no way I'm looking away from this screen even for 2 seconds. It could end at any stage. But for me, I'd have to favour Luis Ortiz. I think he wins the first few rounds and probably knocks Wilder out. I really do think that. Once again, I don't really have a horse in that race, so may the best man win. But yeah, we do definitely want to see the winner take on the winner of Joseph Parker and Anthony Joshua. But it was funny, Joseph Parker there saying that there's a rematch clause in the contract. Obviously, that's the first I've heard of that. So just goes to show how serious Anthony Joshua's team are taking Joseph Parker. But then again, I suppose they probably insert these clauses into most of his fights anyway. But I haven't really heard it in the past mentioned too many times. So yeah, hopefully the right man wins in both of those contests, and we see a big unification for all the marbles sometime in the summer or perhaps the later part of the year. That's it for the news, Ayaz, yeah?
Yep, that's it for the news.
Okay, moving over now to the preview part of the show. A couple bills to go over here, and that will be all. Firstly, we're going to start over in France. There's 1 or 2 fights to mention on this bill. It's not a great bill, but I will mention it anyway. A guy called Andrea Scarpa. He's 22-3 now, former opponent of John Wayne Hibbert, former opponent of O'Hara Davies. He takes on a guy called Frank Petitjean, who is from France. His record 19-4 with 3 draws. He's the EBU European Super Lightweight Champion. Andrea Scarpa looks to try and win that European title there. All the very best to Andrea Scarpa. He's quite a colourful character. Obviously, an Italian fighter. I remember him swearing. He barely knew any words of English, but I remember him swearing, completely catching everybody off guard at the press conference. It was really funny. But no, I like him. He seems like a really nice guy, and I'd like to see him do well. I mean, he's not a bad fighter by any means. Also on this bill, Mohamed Mamoun. I remember avid listener of the show, Ricey, last week suggested that Mamoun would be a good fight for Amir Khan. Well, yeah, this was the fight we were talking about. He's already obviously had a fight scheduled. His record 19-2. He fights for the vacant IBO World Super Lightweight title against Emiliano Dominguez Rodriguez, who's 21-0. I don't know the first thing about him, but we will certainly find out if he's any good on Saturday night over in the Palais des Sports Marcel Cerdan over in France. Moving over now to the USA, the final bill to mention, again, as you said, I has this one to be shown on Box Nation. I think it probably starts about 2 in the morning usually, but there's so many fights on. I'm hoping it starts a little bit early. I'd like to see some of this. There's a real brilliant list of names on this bill. I'm going to start here with Sergei Derevyanchenko, 11-0. He's in an 8-rounder against a bit of a journeyman, really. Deshaun Johnson, 22-22 with 3 draws. Derevyanchenko, obviously a fighter that I'm quite excited about. A bit of a knockout artist as well. I think he's, I'm sure he's 11-0 with 9 knockouts. But yeah, he's one I'm certainly excited for. Obviously, in that middleweight division, I think he's at the moment. So yeah, all the very best to him. A Russian based in the US. Also on that bill, we've got Anthony Peterson, 37-1, taking on Luis Eduardo Flores, 23-8. Now Flores, a guy from Colombia, I don't really think he's a great fighter. He's been in there with a few prospects. He lost to Jamel Herring, he lost to Regis Prograis, he lost to Sharif Boguer, I think most recently out of those names there. So yeah, he's no great shakes really, but Anthony Peterson himself, and this is a real flaw with both of the Peterson brothers, they're just so badly inactive. I mean, you go on Anthony Peterson's record. He lost his only fight to Brandon Rios back in 2010. Okay, so it was in September 2010. So that's obviously 7 years and 4 months now. Okay, we're in January, so 7 years and 4 months, and he has had 7 fights since then. And it's just not good enough. You can't have 7 fights in 7 years and 4 months. But yeah, like I say, he takes on this guy here who's no great shakes. I suppose the record looks a little bit better than what the actual guy is. And certainly, in Anthony Peterson's case, his record is exactly the same. Yeah, I'm not really too bothered about that, but I suppose Anthony Peterson is a name. Also on the bill, Adam Kaunacki, 16-0 with 13 knockouts, the heavyweight. He's only 28. He's a Polish boxer based in Brooklyn. Recently just got a win over Artur Spilka, in which he knocked him out in round 4. Really good win there. Kaunacki's a guy that I think I maybe even suggested for Tyson Fury's comeback fight. I'm quite liking the look of Kaunacki. He takes on a guy called Iago Kiladze, who is 26-1 with 18 knockouts. His one loss came to Yuri Kalenga at cruiserweight, but since moving up to heavyweight, I think he's maybe had about 2 or 3 or 4 fights, something like that. I think he's won most of them by knockout. So yeah, this is a Georgian fighter based in Brooklyn as well, so a little bit of hometown, well, adopted hometown, New York rivalry there. Also on this bill, Marcus Browne, 20-0 with 15 knockouts. Another guy that I'm really looking forward to his future develop. Obviously 27 years old now. He takes on Francis Netetu, who is 17-1. Not a big name, but the only loss on his resume comes to David Benavidez back in June of 2016. Obviously, Benavidez now a world champion, an undefeated world champion, so there's no real shame in that. But this is quite a good fight. This is really, for me, probably fight of the bill. I don't think that Netetu's, such a brilliant fighter, but he nearly went the distance with David Benavidez. It was only an 8-rounder. He was stopped in round 7, but he's got a couple of decent names on his resume, so I quite like that fight there. But I'd like to see Marcus Browne step it up. 20-0 now. Also on the bill, there's 2 world title fights here, but the first one, Robert Easter Jr., 20-0 with 14 knockouts, puts his IBF world lightweight title on the line against Javier Fortuna, 33-1 with 1 draw. Obviously, Fortuna's only loss came to Jason Sosa in June of 2016. A really good test here for Robert Easter Jr., you'd have to probably say. I mean, I really like Richard Comey, but you'd have to probably say this is his hardest fight on paper. Not on paper, actually, in terms of a real fight, physically. I think that's a great fight. A lot of people online give him Fortuna a real chance in that one. I mean, Fortuna can bang as well. He's one of those guys who's had loads and loads of fights, and you probably think he's older than what he is. He's only 28. I mean, obviously, Robert Easter Jr. He's 26. He's a little bit younger, but in terms of actual proper world level experience, you'd have to side with Javier Fortuna for me. So Yeah, in my eyes, that's a really good fight. I'm looking forward to that one. And the main event here, Ayaz, and I'm going to come to you as well in a second. It's going to be shown, like I say, on Box Nation and on Showtime in the US. Errol Spence Jr., 22-0, puts his IBF World Welterweight title on the line against Lamont Peterson. Errol Spence obviously defending his title for the first time since taking the title away from Kell Brook almost 8 months ago. He returns to the ring here in his hometown, and what I mean by that is he doesn't live in New York, but he was actually born in New York, Errol Spence, so a bit of a homecoming for him there. And like I say, takes on Lamont Peterson 35-3 with 1 draw. And again, like I said about Anthony Peterson being extremely inactive, let's take a little look at Lamont Peterson here. He fought, obviously, remember that time when he beat Amir Khan very, very controversially. Since beating Amir Khan in 2011 in December, which was, that's 6 years ago, he's had 7 fights. So he's had 7 fights in 6 years. His brother's had 7 fights in 7 and a bit years. You know what I mean? It's just not good enough, really. Obviously, Peterson, I'm not overly sold on him since he's moved up to 147 or even just fought above 140, really. I mean, he's had the last 3 fights he's been above 140. There was that bizarre catchweight fight against Danny Garcia where both guys didn't put their titles on the line, which was just unbelievable. He lost that fight on a majority decision, but it was really, really close. After that, he won a majority decision against Felix Diaz. That was a good win, to be completely honest, but yeah, a majority decision. He took Felix Diaz's O, and then of course he took on David Avanesian, a friend of the show, and he beat David Avanesian, but it wasn't like a landslide, but he clearly won that fight. I just haven't really been sold on him, to be honest, especially taking on somebody as big and as strong as Errol Spence. But again, it's one of those fights where it kind of splits people. Some people saying, and I kind of side with the guys that say Errol Spence is going to win this easily. But Lamont Peterson has got a load of fans online who say it's going to be a really, really good fight and that we shouldn't overlook him. Ayaz, how do you see it? I mean, Lamont Peterson's, he's a good fighter. He's been around a long, long time. But obviously, in my opinion, his best days are behind him now, surely. 33 years old. He's been in the game a long time.
I agree with you on that. I think that Errol Spence, the younger, fresher guy, Lamont Peterson, he's done what he's done in the ring. He's won a world title, but I reckon, in my opinion, Errol Spence Jr. is just going to stop him.
I probably tend to agree, to be honest. I think that he's got a lot of skills about him, Lamont Peterson, but I just don't know. Like I say, against a bigger guy like Spence has been a pro for 5 years. Peterson's been a pro for just over 13 years now. I think, to be honest, his best days really are quite a way behind him. I do think he gets stopped. I mean, I don't know if Errol Spence is going to be able to get him out of there quicker than Matisse did in that thrilling win, really, back in 2013, where he stopped him in the 3rd round. But what I will say is, if he stops him in the 3rd round or before that, then I'll eat my hat, because that'll be really, really impressive. Let's talk about rounds, Ayaz. Again, obviously, we haven't done the prediction league for quite a while, so I forgot to ask the question on Twitter. But what's your thoughts? I mean, what rounds should we say? Should we say the first 6 rounds, or maybe round 7 to 12? Where do you see the stoppage slotting in?
I'm going for round 9.
Round 9. I think that's quite a good round, really. I think maybe I'd probably side with you. Maybe round. I tell you what, I'm going to go with round 10. I've got a feeling something's telling me round 10, round 11. I think it is going to be a late stoppage though for Spence. I think, maybe it'll take him a couple rounds or something to figure out Lamont Peterson, but I think he will win. I think he will possibly stop him as well. Yeah, I think we're going to both agree with the stoppage. So. Yeah, I mean, it's going to be a good test for Errol Spence, but like I say, I really do want to see him in there with a guy that we can say, oh, that's a great fight. And, it's not like 147 are short of those names. I mean, you just got to look at the rankings. There's so many great fighters there, obviously, like we've said. Keith Thurman, Jeff Horn, Manny Pacquiao, maybe not so Manny Pacquiao at the moment, but Danny Garcia's in there as well. These are all great fights for Errol Spence. Sean Porter, I'd like to see that fight. there's many names there really. Even Omar Figueroa, I know he'd be up for that fight. So there's so many names there, but this one, I mean, it's going to be decent-ish, I suppose. I hope so anyway. But the bill itself is a great bill. I can't be complaining just about one fight. The main event is the main event. I understand that, but I mean, it should be good. It should be good. I don't know. I've just got a bit of an opinion where I don't think that Lamont Peterson's really putting up much of a challenge, but I could be wrong, and I hope I'm wrong. I do want to see Errol Spence tested in what we can call some kind of 50-50 at some point, but I'm not quite sure this is that fight. But anyways, all the very best to everybody that we've mentioned there on those bills. It's a great night of boxing, and I'll be definitely staying up late on Saturday to watch those. I think that's it, Ayaz. Is there anything else to say at all? Have I forgot anything? Is that everything?
That's everything.
Okay, excellent stuff. Right. That's it then. Just before we wrap up the show, there's one last thing to do. As I said, it's been a bite-sized show this week. We've brought you another two guys, another two heavy guys, another two heavyweights, and another two world champions, let's be honest, because Joseph Parker is a current champion and the guy that we're about to speak to is a former one. Let's give him that at least. Okay, it's now time, just before we wrap up the show, to welcome guest number 2. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome the former WBA heavyweight champion of the world, Mr. Lucas Browne. Lucas, once again, welcome to the show.
Hello, mate. How are you? Thank you very much for having me on.
Hey, it's my pleasure, just like the last time. I'm all good, my friend. So, Lucas, the last time we spoke was actually the week after your last fight, so we haven't really got to back up too much. When we spoke, you just returned to the ring. You just knocked out Matthew Greer. After that fight, I remember asking you a question, and one of the questions that I asked you was, how many fights do you believe that you'd need to have before stepping in again at world level? And you actually said that you believe you'd need to fight yourself into a mandatory position, maybe about 5 or 6 fights. But of course, here you're fighting Dillian Whyte for the WBC Silver title, which means that you're potentially one fight away from a world title shot. So you must be a pretty happy man with that situation.
Well and truly, it got to the point where I basically had 3 fights in 3 years. As we all know, Matthew Greer isn't anyone of any sort, so to speak, and it actually cost me $12,500 personally to put that fight on for myself. So, yeah, I'm 38 years old. I don't want to keep mucking around with these little things. So I want to jump straight in. Dillian Whyte's always been on the radar as someone that I just wanted to fight, let alone anything else, because I just don't like him that much. And it sort of really all worked out, in my favour, which is great.
And how did the fight come around originally? I know that, like you say, it's a fight that you've wanted for a long time. It's been in the pipeline a long time. Eddie Hearn was quoted a few times saying that you were making Dillian Whyte wait because you were seeing what Joseph Parker was going to do first. Explain the situation to us, Lucas.
Basically, I was actually lined up to fight Sergey Kuzmin in Russia. He's from Russia himself. That was supposed to be in November. Now, just as I was about to actually sign that, literally like the day before, Parker Camp actually reached out to me and said, would you fight Joseph Parker? Now, of course, world title, Joseph Parker, let's do it, sort of thing. So we put Kuzmin away, so to speak, and he ended up fighting Mansour, and they had a big head clash and stopped in the second or third round. Yeah. But, yeah, I was like backwards and forwards with Parker, and to some point I was sort of like the pawn in the situation as well. Now, rightly so, and I don't blame him in any way whatsoever. He's gone the money fight, he's got AJ, which is exactly what he should have done, and it's quite smart. But I didn't want to be the pawn in that situation either, so we were looking elsewhere, and that's where Dillian Whyte come in. There was also an option to fight Brazil over in, I think it was New York, for the same money. So, yeah, we ended up going with the Whyte fight. It just makes sense. He's got the silver belt, as you said, and here we are.
And I remember when we last spoke, I asked you your top 5 most annoying heavyweights, and you had Dillian Whyte at number 2 on that list. And you also said that you wanted to fight Dillian Whyte in his hometown because you'd like to shut him up in his backyard. Now that the fight's actually happening, and it's not just words, have your feelings changed at all on Dillian Whyte, and how excited are you to get a chance to do that come March 24th?
My feelings have not changed in any way whatsoever, only for the fact that he's now number 1 on the list, not number 2. Who was number 1? Do we remember?
Yeah, Deontay Wilder.
Well, that's fair enough. Yeah, okay. I'll put Deontay Wilder at number 2 now then. Yeah, Dillian Whyte's definitely number 1. And yeah, here we are in London. First time I've been here. I've been here for 2 days now. Had a look around. Besides the fact it's absolutely freezing cold, it's obviously a gorgeous place with a lot of history. But I think come fight night, it'll be a lot of, I think like a 50-50 split in regards to support for me and him, which I think that's excellent. I'm always very well received in the UK. And I think that Dillian Whyte sort of talked himself into a hole where people don't like the big mouth smart ass, and they want to see me build him, which is great.
And originally, Dillian Whyte was scheduled to box on February the 3rd at the O2. That date has obviously been pushed back now to March 24th. Did you have anything to do with that? Did you need extra time to prepare, or was it just simply that the date was too soon for the fight to reach its potential in terms of commercial value?
Yeah, I believe that was more of an Eddie one, that one. He realised that it wasn't going to be enough time. I was in semi sort of camp at that stage because I was going to fight Kuzman anyway in November. So I was in camp, and February could have come around for us, no problem. But in terms of promotional side of things and all that sort of stuff, I think Eddie just decided March was better, which I don't mind. It just gives me more time to prepare.
And I remember also when we last spoke, you said that your contract with Ricky Hatton had expired in April 2017. Obviously, Ricky's very much involved in this fight. Are things sorted now between you both contractually?
So the unfortunate part is lawyers just have a way of doing what lawyers do. I'm with Ricky for another year now, and also contracted to my manager for that period with Ricky. So I'm with my manager and Ricky for at least another year. So it's just the way it's sort of worked out through the courts and lawyers and etc.
And what's the plan in terms of a training camp? Will you be staying out here and training with Ricky? Give us a rundown what's going to be happening over the next couple of days and weeks for yourself.
I live in Perth, so that's where I have been since like Christmas time. I went home for the family and stuff. Prior to that, I've been in Sydney for 9 weeks anyway with my trainer in semi-training camp. Waiting for something to be sorted out so we can keep going. So February 1st, I'll be going straight back home. February 1st, I'll be going straight back to Sydney. Continue with the training camp. We haven't quite sorted out whether we're going to come back here for maybe 2 weeks or so earlier to do some sparring and stuff. But if that is the case, it'll probably be with Ricky's gym. The likes of Nathan Gorman, etc. over that way. So it would make sense, obviously, for everyone for me to come a couple of weeks earlier. But again, we haven't actually spoken and confirmed anything yet.
Okay, excellent. I just want to get your opinion on a couple of other fights that have just recently been announced. Obviously, the one that you mentioned earlier, Joshua and Parker. How do you see that fight going down, Lucas?
I rate both fighters. I just think Joshua's got too much in regards to the skill set. A little bit bigger, a little bit taller, fights longer. And I put it at probably a 70-30 split towards AJ for that one.
And what about Ortiz and Deontay Wilder?
It all depends on how Ortiz comes back. I know. For example, like a Povetkin, he come back off the drug charges and just didn't look the same. Hasn't looked the same. Hasn't performed the same. Hasn't had that same sort of knockout power, etc. So let's see what happens with Ortiz when he comes back. Obviously, he's going to need all the power and stuff he can get to reach and get into Deontay Wilder. I don't rate Deontay as a boxer, like a pure boxer, but the boy can surely hit. You know what I mean? Like, if you do get hit, you stay hit sort of thing. But when he gets excited, he brings the windmills out and sort of flays around all over the place. But he can certainly hit.
Yeah, for sure. Also, obviously, the press conference is tomorrow, so I appreciate you for making some time here. Are you ready for any kind of crazy antics or maybe anything that Dillian Whyte decides to utter?
To be honest, I think he's going to have to try something in terms of whether it be words or even physical. I hope he doesn't get physical because I don't like being somewhat bullied or anything like that, and I don't know what I'm going to do. In regards to words are words. I don't really know. He's quite childish in that regard. I'm 31. I don't care if someone sits down and calls me whatever he wants to call me. That's fine. But I think he does have to sell it. For his point of view, obviously he wants more money and all that sort of stuff, so he needs to sell it. So I'm expecting many different angles. For him to shoot his mouth off is definitely, that's a guarantee. Yeah, 100%.
And obviously, I've got to ask you this, Lucas. If you want to give it to us, have you got any kind of prediction for your fight? How do you win that fight?
To be honest, I get asked a lot just in regards to any fights. It's really hard to say. It is the heavyweight division, so you never know. Like Shigev would be the classic example where I got put on my butt, and that wasn't part of the plan, of course. So you never know. It is the heavyweight division. Everyone can hit hard. So I personally would predict a stoppage, like a KO, a TKO, or him even sort of not coming out for the round off his stool. I do not want to go to the judges' decisions. I don't want to put my life and my career in other people's hands and how they saw the fight. I want to have a definite I win because he's either lying on his back or gives up.
And the final thing I want to ask you, Lucas, is there anything that I perhaps haven't asked you that you want to get off your chest, or anything that you want to say at all just before we let you go to the UK fans?
At this point, yeah, especially thank you very much to the UK fans. As I said, I'm always very well received here, and it really is a nice thing to come into another country and just have a lot of people know who you are, respect who you are and what you do, and thank you for it, which is absolutely sensational. So thank you very much to the UK fans. To the haters, they can eat a dick, but to the fans, thank you very much.
Well said, well said. All right, listen, Lucas, it's always a pleasure, my friend. Enjoy your time here in the UK. Best of luck for March 24th, and we'll catch up sometime after, I'm sure.
Legend, my friend. Thank you very much.
Okay, this wraps up episode 118 of the BoxHard Podcast. It's been another podcast of champions. A big thank you to Joseph Parker, who we spoke to immediately after his press conference with Anthony Joshua, and a big thank you to Lucas Browne, who we spoke to before his press conference with Dillian Whyte. We've put this show out on a Wednesday night, which is a day or two earlier than lately, to be honest, so I hope everybody's happy with that. I've been your host, Joey Coastman. Ayaz Sumra has been Ayaz Sumra. No Eubank impressions this week. It's been short and sweet. Have a great weekend, people, and we'll see you next week.